Have you ever stopped to think about what really makes a country a cultural superpower? I mean, it's got to be more than just having big movies or catchy music, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and really explore the hidden forces behind global influence. We're going to break down what it actually means to lead the world in soft power. Think about it. We all know the big names. You've probably watched a Hollywood blockbuster, played a Japanese video game, or had a K-pop song stuck in your head, maybe even just this week. But how do all these things really add up? What is the secret ingredient that defines a nation's true cultural power? That's the huge question we're diving into today. And boom, here are the rankings. Just take a look at this list. No big surprise, the USA is sitting right there at number one. But look who's right behind them, Japan and the UK. And you've got other heavyweights like France, South Korea, and China in the mix too. But here's the thing, these scores, they're not random. They tell a fascinating story about totally different strategies for winning hearts and minds across the globe. So let's break down how we even get these numbers. To make any sense of those rankings, we've got to get on the same page. We need a clear definition. What are we actually measuring when we talk about cultural power? It's easy to think it's all about the money, box office numbers, how much stuff gets sold. But true cultural power is way more complex than that. It's this incredible blend of two things: quantitative scale, so the sheer size and global reach, and qualitative impact, which is all about how deeply it influences others, and crucially, how long that influence sticks around. Okay, so to measure an idea this big and complex, the analysis uses a really specific toolkit. It's called a five-dimension framework. This is how we go from these kind of abstract ideas to a hard, concrete score. So this framework scores countries across five key areas. It basically asks a series of questions. 1. Is your culture known all over the world? 2. How big is the industry behind it, economically speaking? 3. Is it so influential that other countries are actually trying to copy it? 4. Has its influence lasted for more than 30 years? And finally, 5. Is that influence diverse? Does it span across a bunch of different fields? Okay, with that framework in our back pocket, let's go back to the top contenders. We have to start at the very top, with the undisputed leader in these rankings, the United States. But its power might not come from where you think it does. Just look at that score, 96 out of 100. That is commanding. This number reflects a dominance that stretches across almost every single cultural category you can imagine. It's not just strong in one area, it's practically a complete cultural ecosystem. And we see all the familiar icons here, right? Hollywood, the entire Marvel universe, tech giants like Apple, and sports leagues like the NBA that are global brands. But these are so much more than just popular products. They are global phenomena that literally define the rules for their entire fields. And this phrase right here gets to the absolute core of America's cultural power. It's the provider of world cultural infrastructure. It's not just about making the content, it's about building the entire system that delivers that culture to the rest of the world. Think of it like a cultural operating system. The US didn't just make movies, it created the Hollywood studio system, the star system, the global distribution network. It didn't just create new music, it defined entire genres like jazz, rock, and hip-hop. It built the platforms, from Netflix to the iPhone, that pretty much everyone else now uses. It exports the rules of the game. Now, let's contrast that with our number 2, Japan. They built their influence using a completely different model, but one that's proven to be almost as powerful. Japan scores an incredible 88, and that number reflects this amazing depth and a really unique approach to creating cultural assets that are just beloved around the globe for their very distinct quality. I mean, from the gaming revolution sparked by Mario to the breathtaking artistry of Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away, the manufacturing philosophy of Toyota that changed industries, and of course, the enduring global phenomenon that is Dragon Ball, Japan's influence is built on unbelievably strong and lasting intellectual property. And this, right here, is the heart of Japan's strategy. It doesn't just export products, it exports entire philosophies, like the Kaizen principle of continuous improvement. It exports aesthetics, like minimalism, and it exports a deep, deep sense of meticulous craftsmanship that is recognized and admired everywhere. So, here's the contrast, laid bare. It's fascinating, right? The USA provides the global infrastructure, the operating system for everyone to use. Japan, on the other hand, exports these specific, highly refined applications and philosophies that run on that system. You could say one builds the roads while the other designs the world's most admired and well-crafted vehicles to drive on them. All right, on to our final case study, the United Kingdom. This showcases yet another powerful model of influence, one that's deeply rooted in history and language. Scoring a very, very strong 84, the UK's power really comes from being a foundational source. It created so many of the original formats and the classic stories that the rest of the world now uses, enjoys, and builds upon. Just consider these examples for a second. Harry Potter didn't just sell books, it totally redefined young adult fiction for a generation. The Beatles didn't just make songs, they reshaped pop music forever. The Premier League is, by far, the world's most popular sports league. And Shakespeare, well, Shakespeare is still a cornerstone of world literature centuries later. And this is exactly why the UK is called a designer of rules and stories. It literally established the modern rules for global sports like soccer and rugby. It created foundational genres we still love, like the detective novel with Sherlock Holmes or modern fantasy with Tolkien. In a lot of ways, it wrote the original source code for modern culture. And wow, this timeline really drives home the UK's incredible strength and sustainability. Remember, that's one of our 5 key scoring dimensions. We're talking about cultural assets that have not only endured, but have generated massive influence for centuries, from Shakespeare way back in 1599 all the way to Harry Potter in 1997. That kind of longevity is a massive, massive source of power. So, okay, after looking at these 3 completely distinct models of power, what does this all mean for the future of global cultural influence? Where do we go from here? We've seen 3 very different yet incredibly powerful paths to the top of the cultural mountain. You've got the US model of building the infrastructure, Japan's model of perfecting craft, and the UK's model of designing the rules. And each one has proven to be wildly effective. And that brings us to our final big question. In a world that's rapidly changing, where digital platforms connect us instantly and AI is starting to create its own content, which of these models is actually built to last? Will future dominance belong to the one who owns the infrastructure, the one who masters the craft, or the one who wrote the original rules of the game? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.